Hello and welcome to this first webinar with the Tennis Foundation. My name's Alistair Hyam, I'm the National Universities Manager and I'm here with Claire McCulloch, who now works for the Tennis Foundation but formerly was University Tennis Coordinator for the University of Stirling. The idea of these webinars is to try and produce training materials which essentially highlight good practice from universities and give universities of all sizes around the country a chance to learn from other universities who've been through the process of developing their programme. In terms of developing your program, there's many different aspects to it. There's competition, there's participation, there's perhaps the higher level, intermediates, and then team players. And then, of course, there's many additional aspects to growing your program, including training up your workforce, developing links with the community, and generating interest in tennis, perhaps through charity events, taster sessions, etc., etc. And of course, this all begins at Freshers' Fair. So during this presentation, we'll talk about Freshers' Fair. We'll talk about getting people into your program, but primarily we'll talk about how to grow your weekly program so that you have more on offer to more people to play tennis. And of course, this needs to be planned through Freshers' Fair, and it's something which we're keen to develop throughout all our universities, not just to have a Freshers' Fair, which essentially says team trials are on Wednesday, show up on Wednesday. We're very keen to encourage people of all standards, all abilities and all different skills to get involved with tennis and therefore exit opportunities after Freshers' Fair, and a full weekly programme is what we're looking at. So without any further ado, Claire, over to you. If you run through the presentation, I'm going to chip in with a few questions and clarifications.
Perfect. So on this first slide, it kind of gives you an overview of all of the elements that you should be working towards to have a fully developed program. So as you can see, it starts with recreational tennis at the bottom, moving all the way up to your performance and your BUCS teams. And it has the different elements at the side that might feed into your program, such as social sessions, disability tennis, different cardio tennis, fitness sessions, and recreational competitions. So as we go through this presentation, you'll kind of get an idea of how you can build in all of these different elements to your program. So first of all, talking about the session types, these are kind of split into your team training sessions, your recreational sessions, your social sessions, your competitions, and then all of your additional add-ons that you could do to develop your program. So obviously with team training, you're looking at your scholarship plus your BUCS teams. Recreational, you're looking at to try and do your beginners, intermediate and advanced squads. Then you've got your social sessions, which you could have open to all club members, so everyone gets to know each other. And then you're looking at the competition side of things, so making sure you've got a club championships, maybe doing some box leagues, time tennis. All of these things you can do internally, but you could also link up with other universities like the Scottish universities do, and you could run these types of competitions as an inter-university event. All your add-ons are likes of your touch tennis, cardio tennis programs, Tennis Express, and also if you've got any links with your disability tennis, you can add in sessions for that. So what we're going to talk about is your stages of development. So I want you to think about how your university currently looks like, what stage you're at while I go through these, and maybe how you could, what you could add in next to move on to the next stage. So we're going to look at 3 different stages. The first one is basic. I like to call this the passionate few. So this is where you're maybe a brand new club, you've only got a few members and you're looking to get things started. The next stage would be developing. So this is where you've actually probably got a lot of people involved that socialise a lot of recreational competition going on that you might be lacking in the team competition side of things. And then our final stage would be our established or advanced, which is where you've got almost a full table of the first slide that I showed you. So we're going to take you through each of these now. So first one is your basic program. So this is what it might look like. So it's probably got a very small membership. It's probably lacking a range of sessions, more of a recreational focus. You might have no BUCS teams, you might have one. Usually these type of clubs have no indoor access and little competitions for all levels. So they're more focused on inclusivity, recreational tennis, and having some fun. So if you think this is the stage you're at, you can have a look. Then the next stage we're going to look at is developing. So your inclusive socializers. So this is actually where you're developing the club a little bit. You've got a slightly larger membership. You've probably got a bit of a balance between team and recreational sessions. So you might have one open recreational session and maybe one or two sessions that are specific to an ability group, so like if you're beginners or intermediate, but there maybe not have got a full range of beginner all the way through to advanced. And then you might have a couple of BUCS teams as well. Bits of indoor access here and there, but mainly on outdoor courts. And you might have some competitions for all levels, but mainly competition might be focused on your actual BUCS teams. So now we're going to move on to your established. So if, with the established, you've got a very, very large membership, fully developed program. You've probably got a UTC and an ambassador already involved. With your recreational sessions, they're probably split into your groups of beginner, intermediate, and advanced. You'll have multiple BUCS teams. You'll probably have access to indoor courts, and you'll make sure and provide this competition at all levels that we talked about previously with your BUCS leagues and competition for your recreational players as well as your BUCS teams. You'll have some volunteer engagement, and more than likely you'll have a performance program which includes scholarships and employed staff at your university taking part in helping out with your tennis club. So that is what you would look like if you have a more advanced or established club. So maybe have a little think about what your program looks like and where we can maybe improve on to move to the next stage.
And a little bit of discussion here, Claire. I think there's going to be all kinds of universities who are listening to this presentation, and some will think, well, they'll perhaps not understand some of the terminology or what it means, some of the things that you've explained. But actually, beginning to look at the weekly program is a good place to start. So if we take an average university around my, I guess, vision, or I'm very keen that somebody who comes into Freshers' Fair and sits down in front of the committee at Freshers' Fair and says, I used to be a competitive player at my school, but I don't think I'm going to be good enough for the BUCS teams here. What's for me? Let's just take an average university. What do you think the danger is for a committee member facing that person? What might be some of the holes?
I would say the main thing is when you've got somebody who might actually be quite a good player at their club coming to a university that's got a very strong BUCS team. I think the problem is making sure that they're aware that there is still multiple competition opportunities for them. Because it's very easy to say, come along to a session on a Wednesday night, everyone comes along and it's really fun and social. But somebody who's at that in-between stage is usually looking for competition plus social if they're actually a tennis player already. So I would say it's making sure you've got all the information set up so they know that they'll have competition opportunities at this and this point throughout the year. This is what they'll be able to do, even though they're not in the BUCS teams.
And that's a great point, because I think talking to universities around the country and also to directors of sport, sometimes team trials can be more about managing disappointment than actually giving people opportunities, because the BUCS level is high. And whilst within our schools program, thousands of players have played at competitive level, by the time you get to university, there's about 2,500 people playing in the BUCS teams. Now, if you divide that by 100 universities who are participating, you're down to quickly about 25 people. And then if you say first years, second years, third years, and divide it down again, there's not many places available per year. Yeah. So potentially we've got this huge lag of people who are coming for competitive opportunities, but could be disappointed if they haven't got that just below BUCS team level in order to push up to the higher levels, but also just get involved with the tennis. So actually, retention at universities and retaining people playing tennis and stopping them dropping out is as important as any other aspect of the program. So what kind of things can you do to retain the people, or to make sure at Freshers' Fair you've got an offer for those people, and they don't feel disillusioned and can't get in the team and go and join another sports club.
Yeah, I think it's making sure, as I said, that you have a very clear every different session that you have and what each of those sessions are for, because a person coming in who is never picked up a racket before will have different needs and wants of a session for somebody who has played a decent amount. So it's making sure at beginner level, if they're just picking up a racket, you're advertising, it's just going to be a bit of fun. You might even play with a bit of sponge balls. Everyone in the class is going to be at the same stage as you. We'll be at the courts through the back, so no one will be able to see you, that sort of thing. Moving all the way through to your advanced squad, which is the people that maybe just miss out on the Bucks teams but are still good, making sure that they know that there's still going to be 3 sessions for them a week. One of them might be a coaching session, the other 2 might be some match play sessions, but also every Wednesday we're going to run a box league with you, and once a month you'll be able to go and play competition against this and this university, which we've already set up.
Great, and of course it's Stirling, you had a very advanced program. We're able to put on 3 times a week, but at perhaps a university that's just developing their tennis, that might just be once again introducing that first squad, which is below Bucks level. Good. I think we're going to go on to talk about in the presentation how to develop your program and move up the stages. So please carry on.
Yes. Okay. So what you need to do to move from each stage to the next. So first of all, you want to look at these areas of development. So looking at Freshers Week, making sure that at Freshers Week you really harness all the opportunities you can, making sure that you've got all of your social media on the go, you've promoted everything as much as you can, and you've got a very clear handout to people that they can take away and they know exactly when everything is on and where the information they can get. Delivery of your program.
Before we go into delivery of the program, let's talk about Freshers Fair, because I think that for me, although it's a while since I was in front of a committee at Freshers Fair, that's key. I remember trying to sign up for different sports events over the year, and that first contact is so crucial, because if you don't feel welcome, or you don't feel you're treated well, or you don't feel that they've got your best wishes at heart, then it can be quite a disheartening meeting, really, and can actually point you towards getting involved, or actually, if you're a little bit nervous and were shy and didn't want to ask, or you kind of, on the other hand, you can get people coming in who know that they've got a really strong track record in tennis, and the people in front of them talk down to them or reduce their chances of getting involved, or appear to with the wrong tone. It can have a massive impact. So how would you, just that first touch, that first meeting, what advice might you give to university committees to make sure everybody feels welcome and is included and can benefit from the offer, hopefully the strong offer that they've planned?
Yes, I think everything probably comes from making sure that you've got the right people on your committee. So everyone, from my experience that was on my committee at the time, we had very enthusiastic people. They were all told that they needed to be part of the Freshers Fair and were there. But also, not only that, our committee was made up of people that were previously elite tennis players, all the way down to people who were maybe on the committee because they had very good IT skills, or they had really good marketing opportunities, but in tennis they were only at beginner standard. So that way, when somebody comes in at Freshers Fair and they sit at the table, you've got a couple of people sitting there. Some people will actually be able to give them the beginner and intermediate experience, or you might have somebody like me who's been on a team that's able to be like, well, this is the experience if you manage to get on the team. So it's making sure that everybody has the information. And
in the planning for Freshers Fair, presumably then there is a sort of a discussion about who's going to take a lead on each aspect of the programme that's on offer.
Yes, absolutely. And I always make sure that when we set up the rota for Freshers Fair, every team that's on at a certain time, there's a varied people there. So it's not just a bunch of people sitting there that are only on the Bucks teams, because they won't know anything about recreational competition. So it's making sure that you've got a range of people there who are able to relate to whoever approaches the desk.
And of course, at Freshers Fair, you've got a chance there to capture people who have perhaps done a level 1 coaching qualification, or perhaps really helped at their local tennis club or at their school by looking after the notice board or the website or some. How do you go about exploring not just the playing side, but the other skills they may have to offer?
Yeah, so what we do is every person that sits on our freshers desk has a form, and we try not to do it as an interrogation. It's more of a couple of questions when they approach us. Have you played tennis before? Oh, you have. Are you a coach? Have you done this? Have you done that? And just asking them questions that make sure we actually get their, because they all have to put their details down anyway. So as you're writing their email address and their name down for you to send them information, you can tick a couple of boxes on this form next to them to maybe see where their interests are, what level they're at. And that way, when you send their information to them, it's targeted to them. And you can also maybe add to the email and be like, oh, I realize that you're a tennis coach. If you want to be involved in our coaching program, this is how you can do it.
Yes, so, and I think it really takes a lot of organisation and planning, because it strikes me there's many roads from Freshers Fair. It's not a T-junction. It's more like Spaghetti Junction at Birmingham. You can easily you can go different ways. You can be sent the wrong way as well. So it's really important to get all those potential routes forward planned out, so people are not only welcome, but there's very strong follow-up, because it's really only half of the story, Freshers Fair, isn't it?
Absolutely, and I would say that's quite an important part to know, is actually most of the work in recruitment goes the 2 weeks before Freshers Fair even happens. And actually, if you get that right, the rest of it becomes very easy, and you end up with 100 people turning up for your Give It a Go session.
Yes, yeah. I heard it in one university, some good practice, and whether this was Stirling or not, I'm not sure, in that there's very limited time on Freshers Fair. So you've got a few minutes in front of each student. So what they did is they gave them as much information as possible, but then had a tennis club welcome on the Monday evening following Freshers Fair, at which they talked about the wider offer available. And then in the week following Freshers Fair, their program began with all these different aspects to it, whether it's cardio tennis or Bucks tennis training, team trials, or underneath Bucks level development squad, beginner squad. Is that how you operated as well?
Yeah, so at Freshers Week, we obviously had the initial Freshers Fair, and then we had our Give It a Go session, where we got everybody in. We ran 2 different ones, but they were the exact same, just to cater for people that might be able to come at different times. And it started off, we got them all sitting down. I had a portable projector up, which we gave them a 5-minute presentation with a bit more information on the club. And then we actually left the screen up with all of the different session details up. So at any point, if anyone came in late, they could look at the screen and it was there. And then we went on to a kind of a court rotation, so they could get a little taster of all the different sessions we provide. So we had 1 court of touch tennis, 1 court of cardio, 1 court of normal coaching. And I think it was a 2-hour session, and then we done another 2-hour session for other new people. And
organisationally, did you let them join in wherever, or did you move them around everything and then?
We organisationally, we split them into groups, and it was a 15-minute rotation, so they got to have a go of everything. And we made sure during that time that there was 1 committee member per group that I had previously given all the information that they needed to know to. So if all of them had any questions, they could ask that person that was in their group. And also the committee member was encouraged to promote the social events that were happening that week, so they could come and get to know the current members of the club, etc. So
excellent. And sign up at that time for the following weeks in those activities, presumably?
We gave them we told them that they could come to 1 week's worth of coaching for free before they had to pay their membership, just so they can actually come and see what we're all about, so they know that we have a good quality club and we're not just saying it.
So was sign up after the first week's free
Sign up was
session?
after the first week's free session, and we just started recording that with registers, and we had access to the online payment system, so we knew who was attending and who had paid, so that way we could monitor it.
We say the online payment, it was at a Stirling?
Yeah, all of the clubs for Stirling is paid online, so we didn't have any control over that. We just got access to it, so we know who had paid.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then you want to kind of look at I think I'll go into a bit more detail about these things in a minute, but delivery of your program, that's looking at who actually goes on court and coaches your sessions. So who runs the beginner squads, who runs the intermediate squads, who runs your Bucks sessions, and do they have the right qualities and the right qualifications to do each of these sessions. Local venue partnerships, these are really important, especially if you want to expand your club or even add Bucks teams. They not only can give you courts court time, but they also give you opportunities that you can play recreational competition against their players. They actually give you employment opportunities for your coaches in your club to go and coach at their venue, so they're really, really important. Team tennis is a bit of fun that you can include in your program for people to play with their friends, and obviously building a flow of progression we'll talk about, so how to move from one stage to the next. So looking at Freshers Fair, we've kind of talked about this already in just what we said, but Freshers Fair will sell yourself. It's your one chance to actually do face-to-face promotion, tell them what you're all about, talks about the questionnaires, give it a go, make sure you give them a bit of everything you've got so you can see, and use that chance to promote the socials as well, so they can meet who else is in your club. Delivery of your sessions. So obviously, if you're lucky enough to have a UTC ambassador or external staff, that is what you would first of all go to run your sessions. But also, as we said, ask club members. If you've got coaches in your club already, use them to run your sessions.
I should just say, in case anybody's wondering what a UTC is out there, it's a University Tennis Coordinator, which is part of the Tennis Foundation's program to develop tennis. There's more details on the website.
Excellent. There is funding you can get to help with individuals and coaching qualifications. So there's development grants, university funding, and even speaking to your local authority council can help give you a bit of money to help coaches in your club go through their qualifications. And you can use that as an incentive in exchange for coaching. So you can say, actually, if we help fund your qualification, could you please do a couple of hours coaching for us here or there? And that way it's really easy to run your club a bit easier. Volunteers, just ask if anyone wants to help. Use your committee. They're already volunteers that have shown a massive interest in wanting to be part of the club. And for an example of what we did at Stirling, we put everyone that was a team member in a Bucks team on a volunteer rota, because our team players paid the same membership as our recreational tennis players, and some people might say that's unfair because they got a bit of support with their travel or whatever. So we put them on we had lucky enough to have 7 Bucks teams, so they were on a 7-week rota, and every 7 weeks one member of the team had to come along to every recreational session to help out. So that way you've got a bit of a helper, but it also allows integration. It allows people to see these scary team members that they've never seen and actually realise that they get on quite well, and it might help develop the social side. It also allows you to filter through the levels. So invite an advanced squad member to come down and help at an intermediate squad, and then the intermediate squad knows the level that they need to get to then move to the next stage. So this is the local venue partnerships that we talked about. As I said, it offers club expansion, more courts. Clubs often don't use their courts during the day. And again, as I spoke about before, inter-club competition, allowing to play against their members.
And that's an interesting model, and a lot of universities kind of just buy courts. But I think there's an interesting model at Nottingham University whereby there's an arrangement with the local tennis centre that their students will help as volunteers on the tennis centre's programme in return for free or cheaper courts indoor. So it's a everybody wins type of situation. It's an arrangement whereby if there's a pool of 20 volunteers from the university, or 10 or 5, they go and help out on the club programme. Then in return they get either a walk-on rate to practice free or a reduced rate for matches on a Wednesday afternoon, and it can really work well and develop excellent community links in that way. Yeah,
absolutely. It's a really good way to get some extra court time as well as just building a really good relationship. Excellent. So looking at team tennis. So starting with team trials, that's something that you'll obviously do in Freshers Week. And you want to give them, as they're obviously quite a demanding lot because they want to play tennis at a really high level. So you want to make sure that you give them as many weekly sessions as possible and as many coach-led sessions. They're looking for guidance. They're probably pretty good athletes, so you want to try and be as professional as you can when it comes to these sessions. you should be aiming for 2 or more a week, if not more than that. But you should start with trying to get 2 if you actually have a Bucks team. Coach-led, start with using club resources. But if you're obviously if you're well enough to actually have a coach on site that's part of the university, then you can try and involve them and use them to coach these sessions. You can bring in external coaches and staff, and these can help provide the extra sessions such as fitness, strength and conditioning, etc.
And they can often be students that are involved, students who are studying sports science, and actually in some of our more advanced universities, there's very good connectivity between the academic departments and the tennis that's going on, because tennis is a sport that is friendly towards, and there's a lot of education in psychology, biomechanics, physical conditioning, performance analysis video. As might have been seen, we have a student conference every year, and these are some of the sports science aspects that can be brought in, and students can benefit from working on the program, hopefully benefit into their degree. So don't overlook the obvious in front of you.
Absolutely, yeah. Often students are also on maybe doing a master's. They will be looking for people to do some of their projects on. For example, like a sports psychologist might want to come in and look at the athletes, and that way you can build relationships. So just actually create a link to the academic part of the uni to try and develop these. Building a flow of progression. So look at the stage that you think your club's at, and look at maybe a couple of additional sessions that you can start adding on to develop to the next stage. You really want to be allowing a progression from beginner all the way through to team tennis, and you should make it very clear to every individual what they need to achieve themselves that would help them to get to the next stage. But at each level, you want to make sure you're providing competitions, opportunities if they wish, and opportunities to challenge those people above them. So you can do this through your club championships or time tennis tournaments, so they can measure themselves against the people that are maybe in the stage above.
I think that's really key. One of the real pitfalls in selecting for a team is the people who don't get selected, because they can feel really demotivated, and therefore it's really something to take great care with. So particularly when running team trials, if you disorganized, if it's just a couple of first team players quickly glancing over people playing tennis competitively, if the stronger players are put with the weaker players and therefore can't show how good they are, if commitment over a number of 8 weeks isn't taken into consideration, all these things are really not doing the best job for selection. And whether that's going, from beginners up to intermediates up to advanced up to team, it's a much more complex and needs a professional attitude than you would think. So actually taking care with these progression opportunities is very careful, and particularly when it comes to selection for an event, actually really thinking about the people who've not been selected and what's for them is every bit as important as the people who have been selected.
Absolutely. And if you've got a big enough club, actually your Bucks teams makes up maybe 20% of your overall club. So you want to be making sure that everybody's happy. Otherwise, you're going to get a massive dropout. Okay, so progressing through these stages, if you're looking to go from basic to developing, you want to focus on providing more sessions with more variety. Really sell yourself at Freshers Week and be inclusive. So make sure that you've got something for everyone. Develop your workforce, so try and get maybe a couple of people with their next stage of coaching qualifications, and try and just get a little bit more court time, and you can do this through local partnerships, and maybe try and just add in a little bit of competition for those recreational players.
And I think developing your workforce is important, because you may well have a really good workforce, but if you haven't clocked the fact they're all going to leave next year, you could be in a mess. So also it's spreading it out throughout the years, isn't it? So there's that continuity of program and handover.
Yeah, I think you find with university tennis clubs often to go up and down because people leave, there's a turnover. So it's making sure that you provide these opportunities to the new people coming in, so they can then do the same for when they end up in fourth year or third year. Looking from going from developing to established, you want to provide sessions for every ability. So looking to make sure that you provide beginners, intermediate, and advanced. Getting all of your additional sessions in. Freshers Week should have a range of activities, being able to show that you can cater for absolutely everyone. Both internal and external coach workforce. So you'd be looking at maybe covering all the recreational side of things within your internal staff, but potentially, if you can afford it, bringing in an external coach to cover your more elite athletes. Strong local venue links. You might have more Bucks teams than your university can actually deal with. So creating these links will allow you to have that extra court availability.
Just seeing this as a range of activities. Is that right?
A range.
A range.
It should be range.
Range is pretty good, though.
That. Let's go with range. Yeah. And then performance programs. So obviously Bucks matches, training and full-time staff, and then opportunities at all levels for competition and a regular chance to challenge those stages and trying to move up and progress.
And when you talk about inclusivity, obviously tennis is it's a friendly sport for people with disabilities. So how did you manage to integrate at Stirling people with disabilities into your tennis program?
Yeah, I think it's very difficult and it's very dependent on your university demand. So actually at Stirling, there wasn't a huge amount of people with disabilities that wanted to take part in sport. We have a disability side of the university, so we had a contact with We Know Everybody, who was a student who had a disability. And what we did manage to do is link up with another sport. So we provided once a week, there was a chance that you could do an hour of basketball followed by an hour of tennis, wheelchair tennis. So that way people who maybe have played wheelchair basketball before might be like, oh, I'll go and try tennis. So we did that, and we also provided some training opportunities for our students to become a bit more aware about disabilities. And then we ran a couple of monthly festivals where we brought in part of the community groups with learning disabilities. So instead of looking at just solely focusing on our uni, we looked at the community and how we could maybe use our resources to help them. So we ended up running monthly learning disability tennis sessions there.
Great, and of course the higher end, Gordon Reid, world number.
Yes, he trains at our uni.
One is at your uni, and therefore, but he would just join in with the more regular tennis sessions. So it's genuinely inclusive in that sense.
Absolutely. But when Gordon is training at the university, he would join in with our scholarship program training. So he would hit in with our performance program there. Mm-hmm. So if you're lucky enough like us to have an athlete like him, you can definitely include them if you've got the right levels there.
And there are some stories of even not as high as Gordon, people with disabilities just joining with a regular program. Yeah. And I should just say that if you wish to know more about that, there's training programs available. So as a coach or as a volunteer, you can understand better how to incorporate every player within your program.
Absolutely. And it's often a daunting thing that people maybe don't know how to deal with, but actually it's a lot easier than you think to include people with disabilities, and it's not even usually difficult at all. It's just something that happens naturally. Excellent. So my last final thing to say is just look at better planning, so making sure that you are prepared for Freshers Week, etc., so you can really use as much of that as you can. Add variety and add opportunity for absolutely everybody, so there's something that you can cater for everyone. And the more people you get in increases innovation. So make sure that when you get all these people into the club, ask them what they're good at, ask them what they can maybe do to make your club better and help support your club going forward.
Excellent. Thanks, Claire. Claire, that's a very informative and comprehensive presentation. Lots there to mull over. I'm just going to pause now in case any questions from anybody listening. Okay, so I think that's in this first one. There's not any questions coming in, so we'll move over and simply say that if you need more information on anything we've discussed, then all you need to do is get in touch or look on the website www.tennisfoundation.org.uk. But there is a whole field force and also a whole range of universities who are already engaged, and so look out for some of our events or get in touch, and we'll make sure you get the right advice moving forward.